Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really glad to have with me once again Max Porterfield. He is the president and CEO of Callinex Mines. Callinex Mines trades in Toronto under the symbol CNX. It's on the Venture Exchange there. Or you can buy it in the United States, as I have, under the symbol CLLXF. That's CLLXF. There are 47 million shares outstanding, approximately that. I was seeing it trading recently at around 23 cents in U.S. money, giving it a market cap of about $11 million or so. When a year when most all mining and mine exploration stocks have really been hard hit, Max Porterfield's Callinex is one of the only a handful of stocks in positive territory this year in my newsletter. When I first recommended it, well, it's gained about 50% this year. Actually, I picked the stock up in February. In my introduction to this company to my subscribers in my newsletter, I said, quote, Callinex Mines is a spinoff from Callinex Mines, but as you will see, it is a spinoff with a great head start towards building what I believe can be a mineral deposit worth many times this company's current market valuation. The percentage upside potential for those who buy these shares at this current price is, I believe, very considerable. End of quote. Well, to help you understand why I said what I did back in February of this year and why I'm more convinced than ever that I was right, let me welcome Max Porterfield, the president and CEO of Callinex Mines. Thanks for joining me today, Max.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure talking to you. You have kept your eyes out for an opportunity, and it seems to me like you've really found one. And it was last week, actually, you put out some very significant and I think exciting news announcing a new polymetallic discovery on your Pine Bay project in Manitoba. Now, I want to ask you about that, of course, but first, for the sake of people who may not yet have heard your story, can you give us, just to get an overview of what you've got going there in your Manitoba project?
Well, our Pine Bay and our Flin Flon projects are both in very close proximity to Flin Flon, Manitoba, where Hudbay's operations are based out of, and they operate their 777 mine and receive feed from another mine called the Reed Lake Mine, located about 130 kilometers away. So with that being said, that project portfolio is in very close proximity to that infrastructure. That infrastructure that Hudbay is operating has dwindling ore feed to go into that, to feed that infrastructure and the concentrator there. With the 777 mine having a mine life going to be depleted by 2020 and the Reed Lake mine by 2019, with Hudbay currently having no new ore to feed that infrastructure there, we see it as a great opportunity to explore these two projects that haven't been explored in a modern-day context and really haven't had any exploration done on them in the past, say, 20, 25 years or so. But this is a land package that has been consolidated by our chairman and Canadian Mining Hall of Fame inductee, Mike Muslowski, who's had a number of successful discoveries within the Flin Flon camp. And it was previously explored for and operated by some of the who's who of mining and exploration, including Hudbay themselves, Placerone, Newmont, and Cameco. So we see this area as a great area to explore, and when we do make an economic discovery, there is an infrastructure needing that ore in the very short term.
Well, that certainly does give you an advantage over finding a deposit somewhere in Timbuktu, far away from infrastructure and ready milling facilities. Hudbay is there, of course, a household name in Canada, at least, if not in the United States, but a major mining company, a very successful company over the years. Certainly one that would be able to work with you, I would think, but you don't have any sort of formal agreement at all with Hudbay at this stage, do you?
No, there's no formal agreement with Hudbay at this time, and like you said, they are the choice partner and operator. We have a deep amount of respect for them. To kind of give you a little bit of perspective, they've operated within the Flin Flon Greenstone Belt for over 90 years. In fact,
Wow.
They've taken 26 of the 32 mines that have gone into production there into production. So they definitely have a stake in kind of what we're doing from the exploration standpoint, kind of moving forward.
Yeah, and I notice in looking at the map, your ground surrounds the existing Hudbay facility, at least I think their mining facility that they have in place now. It certainly seems as if you could find something of value, that's economic value right there, that it would certainly be worth something to the Hud Bay. Hud Bay, of course, has a large amount of ground, I think, to the west of where you are, your main deposit right now. But any sense of whether they're having any success, or do they sort of keep that close to the vest in terms of their own exploration efforts?
Well, I mean, in terms of their own exploration efforts, they've made it very public that they haven't had the success that they'd like to see, unfortunately, there with extending the mine lives at 777 and Reed Lake. Mm-hmm. Made that public on some earnings conference calls with analysts and discussed that. With that being said, they do have an exploration budget of between, I think, roughly $15 million over the next few years on an annual basis to conduct exploration within the camp. And I think there'd be a focus on close proximity to that infrastructure. With that being said, Callinex is probably the second largest claim holder within 30 kilometers of that infrastructure outside of Hud Bay. But our land package, again, hasn't been subject to modern-day exploration, whereas a lot of the Hud Bay ground, they've been able to kind of develop that and test those targets. With that being said, on top of that, in fact, we did put this out in a recent press release, but where we're drilling this summer right now on our Pine Bay project, they've got a drill rig that's just about 2.5 kilometers to the south of us, right on our claim boundaries. They're drilling about, say, 250 to 300 meters off our claim boundaries on the same kind of horizon that hosts that Centennial Mine and Sourdough Mine, sourdough deposit, and the sourdough deposit being on our property, the historic Centennial Mine being just to the south, just past our claims on Hud Bay's claims. And I think we're all looking for us to be successful, and we'd like to see them to be successful as well.
Any chance you might put some drill holes down close to that same structure that they're drilling on their property?
Yeah, that'd be something that we'll look at. If you look at the exploration that we've done on our Pine Bay project, from a geophysical standpoint, modern geophysics only covers, I would say, maybe the top half or a little bit more than that. So there's been no geophysics from the sourdough deposit that I'm describing to you down to the Centennial Mine on their claims. There's been no modern-day geophysics on our property. So that'll be something that we'll be looking to do this winter as we conduct follow-up exploration from the summer campaign. So you're absolutely correct. We do see that kind of as an opportunity, going forward.
Well, this exploration potential that you have there looks massive, and again, it excited me. Your press release that came out on the 14th of September announcing a new discovery, a new volcanogenic massive sulfide discovery there. Talk to us a little bit about that. I see it's about 100 meters east of your current sourdough deposit, right? So it's right in the same vicinity, but it's a brand new discovery, is it, Max?
Yeah, what we actually did is bigger than just, I think, a discovery of some new mineralization. We actually discovered a new horizon that hadn't previously been drilled before, and that happens very not too often, I would say. So if you look, and if you ever have a chance to go to our website and see this for your listeners, but the sourdough deposit is hosted in what's known as the Centennial Sourdough Horizon. It also hosted that historic Centennial Mine. So we were drilling some geophysical targets that were underneath, this particular target was underneath the known sourdough deposit, because it's been very shallow drilling, and a lot of these large ore bodies have been found at 800 meters of depth. Yeah. So we were putting a hole underneath the sourdough deposit to test to see if there's a down dip extension of that known deposit, and there wasn't successful. But what we did do is, and I really got to give credit to our great technical team here at Callinex, but they noticed, our project geologists and our team noticed right off the go, when we came out of that known horizon that hosted, again, that sourdough deposit in Centennial Mine, we went back into what's known as an alteration zone, a very highly altered rocks that have sericite and chlorite. But this is kind of the rocks you want to see in immediate close proximity to a deposit. So with that being said, we call it no shutting off rocks. So you don't shut the rig off in that type of rocks. We kept the rig going, and that hit us 176 meters of alteration zone. And when we came out of that alteration zone, we hit that 7.4 meters of mineralization that is also a new horizon. So with that being said, it's very, very exciting because it opens up a lot of different potential for exploration at the property, because there is no historic drilling in this horizon or where we hit this mineralization in any near vicinity of it. And again, these things can span very large distances, and it can host multiple deposits, as you can see that has historically occurred with the Centennial Sourdough Horizon that's just immediately kind of due west there.
Mm-hmm. Well, always the problem for junior mining companies, especially in this kind of a market environment, is exploring and drilling without undue dilution. And you've got a very nice, tight share structure at this point in time. How well funded are you, Max, to go forward, and what sort of a budget will you have, and what will you be looking to do going forward over the next year or 6 months at least? What do you have in mind for the company in terms of budget exploration, and what are your targets going to be? Will you be following up on this new discovery, I'm sure?
Yeah, so what we're doing in terms of, to answer your question in terms of exploration, and then I'll discuss the capital thereafter, is the summer program that we're doing going forward is going to be drilling out on a stratigraphic basis, really to try to cover a 1 kilometer strike length from that discovery of this new horizon. So what we're doing is going to be 2 additional holes in this program to cover that area, use the geophysics and lithogeochemistry to help guide us within that system for follow-up drilling that we're looking to conduct this upcoming winter. This upcoming winter will be focused on follow-up from the drilling that we've done this summer, including that broad off-hole anomaly that we found where we've hit that mineralization to kind of expand that. And again, we see quite a bit of opportunity with that mineralization that we found in that first hole, because it is interpreted to be on the edge of a larger conductive body. So that the follow-up for that will happen this winter, and then we'll be drilling over a broader area to finish up this summer program. So in terms of the capital, we did raise $3.4 million recently in a private placement that we closed on July 31st, and we raised an additional roughly $400,000 from warrants being exercised by our existing shareholders. So as of August 1st, we had $4 million in capital in the bank. We're keeping our overhead and burn rate very low, so we're probably burning roughly $50,000 to $60,000 a month, and that's excluding any exploration. And we've got we'll be spending roughly $2 million in the ground and doing exploration between now and December of next year. And that also will also have roughly about 2 to 2.5 years of operating capital aside from that. So we are very well capitalized. We brought in this recent financing. We're very excited to have Resource Capital Funds, a very well-regarded private equity fund that specializes in the natural resource space, to now be our largest shareholders, owning 18% of the company.
Well, I think you've had a historical resource there at some time in the past, not a 43-101. I mean, what do you think is the best way to go for the company? To spend a lot of money and get a 43-101, or to do more step-out drill holes and establish the potential for a very extensive deposit?
Yeah, so I think really to the latter of that. I mean, the project does have multiple resources, historic deposits on them. The largest of which is the Pine Bay deposit. Our focus is going to be identifying new mineralization that's high grade and high enough grade to potentially be economic. Drill out that deposit as we discover it, and then eventually go out and do a 43-101 resource. I don't think in terms of managing costs and expectations of the market at this time, I think it's better spent to see what is the potential and extent of this new zone within this horizon that we've discovered, and then also see what we find with other drilling that we're doing to test these targets this summer and this upcoming winter.
You mentioned your largest shareholder. Who are some of the other shareholders in your company, and how much does management have in this company?
Yeah, so first of all, I think expanding upon Resource Capital Funds and how pleased we are to have them as an investor and a shareholder, is because they're very patient investors and take a long-term approach to the investments they make. They're a $2.5 billion private equity fund. They've deployed, I think, roughly $7 billion into resources since going inception in 1998. But they're very, very selective investors. They've only invested in roughly just over, I think, 135 companies since 1998. And they primarily, they've always focused their investments to the latter stage in terms of the development stage of projects to construction stage, not early stage exploration. So with their investment, why we're so excited is, we're probably the second or third maybe early stage exploration company they've ever invested in. So we're very pleased to have them on. In addition to resource capital funds, we do have shareholders like Carlos Savelli, who is out of Switzerland and Monte Carlo. He's a gentleman that's got a very vast track record in the natural resource space. He's seeded 12 companies that went to billion-dollar market caps throughout his career. And this isn't his first rodeo, so to speak, in the Flin Flon camp. He's also had successes with our predecessor, Callinex Mines, that went to Callinex Royalties as a large investor of that company, as well as Mike Maslowski and Granges when they discovered the Trout Lake mine in the early 1980s. He was a large investor of that. In fact, that Trout Lake mine that Mike discovered, as it still stands today, is one of the 5 largest deposits or mines ever discovered in the Flin Flon camp over the past 100 years. So, guys like Carlo in the company have got a very well good understanding in terms of what we're up to and been extremely supportive. But in terms of the overall capital structure, resource capital owning 18%, between management, close associates like Carlo, and resource capital, over 60% of the float's tightly held. On a fully diluted basis, management owns roughly 10% of the shares outstanding.
Oh, that's very good. I like that a lot, and only 47 million shares out there to start with, so you can see the float is very manageable at a time when it needs to be with the markets as weak as they are. Well, I'd certainly have to think that your resource capital and the likes of Mr. Savelli, they must be looking at Hud Bay and Hud Bay's needs, and they know the area. Mr. Savelli certainly does, and they had to be looking at this. I mean, if resource capital is coming in and it's one of the few, only 2 or 3, I think you said the third perhaps, exploration kind of a situation they came into, they must be looking at this as a fairly high probability success story given everything that comes into play here, including the infrastructure in Hud Bay and all that, and the geology. So it really looks very promising to me. Max, I don't know if there's anything else that you think needs to be highlighted before we conclude our discussion today. I guess I should ask you drivers. What should our listeners be looking for in terms of what might drive this stock higher over the next 6 months to a year?
Well, I definitely think it's going to be how active we are from an exploration standpoint. And again, we're in the midst of our summer phase 2 program. That's going to be roughly 3,000 meters when it's all said and done in drilling. And then we're immediately there, not too short thereafter, we'll be conducting our winter program of exploration beginning probably in the December to January timeframe. So we're going to have constant news flow. And as we continue to really do drilling and do geophysical work and test the real potential that we have here at our Pine Bay and Flin Flon projects, I think those will definitely be catalysts to drive and propel the stock higher based upon those results. So, no, we're very, very excited to get to work here. Really appreciate you being an endorser and a supporter of the company and having us on your show. So thank you again for that. And I guess to wrap things up, if any of your listeners have any questions on the company, would like to speak to myself or any of our colleagues, don't hesitate to give us a call. You can reach us at any time here at our home office. Telephone number, if they want, is 604-605-0885.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good information there on your website as well. Can you tell us what your website is? I should have had that marked down. I don't.
Yeah, no problem at all. Our website is got all our information on there as well. Is callinex.ca. And that's spelled CALLINEX.ca. Excellent.
Very, very good. Certainly something I'm pleased about. As I said, one of the few exploration stories in my newsletter that is actually up nicely this year. Congratulations and a job well done so far, Max. We'll look to talk to you again sometime in the near future.
All right. Thank you again for having me, Jay.